Facebook making a big reversal in the after hours. That stock had been down by as much as 1.2%, now down about 0.5%. The conference call is underway. Let's get to Julia Borson with the details. Julia.
Melissa, Facebook shares turning negative, moving into the red on CFO David Wehner saying just now that the company expects advertising revenue to decelerate in the fourth quarter and going into 2020. Wehner saying that's partially driven by ad targeting related headwinds and uncertainties, also saying they expect full year expenses to grow 53 to 61%. Now that is adding the $2 billion additional cost of the full FTC fine to the expense outlook from last quarter. Wehner also saying that the price per ad dropped 4%, while the number of impressions grew 33%, saying that's due in part to growth of Instagram stories as well as Facebook stories. Now, earlier in the call, CEO Mark Zuckerberg focusing his comments on his commitment to protecting users' privacy, saying this was an important quarter to have a clear path forward, both in terms of regulation and Facebook's new business focus.
This is a major shift for us. We build services that billions of people trust every day to communicate with the people they care about. Privacy has always been important to the services we provide, and now it's even more central to our future vision for social networking. It's critical that we get this right, and we're going to build it into all of our systems.
CEO of Facebook, CEO Sheryl Sandberg also talking about how this new focus on privacy and transparency will help support Facebook's revenue growth.
We're making significant investments in safety, security, and privacy while continuing to grow our community and our business. We know we still have a lot of hard work ahead of us, but this quarter once again shows that we can do both. We are committed to earning back trust through the actions we take.
Sandberg and Zuckerberg also talking about their new focus on commerce, near term with shopping on Instagram that Sandberg says is gaining steam, and longer term with Libra for encrypted payments, which Zuckerberg spoke about quite a bit, answering some questions about it right now. Melissa?
Julia, when you said ad targeting headwinds and uncertainties, that actually David Wehner said, what does that mean exactly?
That is a direct quote, Melissa. What I think he's talking about is there could be some uncertainty to understand how all this privacy regulation, all this regulatory scrutiny could impact the way they use data to target ads. The less targeting, the less data they use in advertising, the more that'll hinder growth. Ads are more effective, they're more valuable to Facebook if Facebook can use more personal information in targeting them. If people opt out of targeting, then that could be problematic.
Julia, thank you. Julia Borson in Los Angeles. For more reaction to Facebook earnings, let's bring back in Gene Munster of Loup Ventures. Gene, I want to start off right there. Ad targeting, headwinds and uncertainties. What do you make of that? And is this an indication that all of this whirlwind around privacy and data use, it's actually catching up to its core business?
Melissa, I don't think so. I think the company is doing what they always do, which is be conservative. Keep in mind, they've talked about these decelerations before, and in fact, revenue has continued to be good. So I think that played part of it. I also think there's a little bit of gamemanship that came in specifically with that targeting comment. And this gamemanship is straightforward. They're going to ask questions about how are you factoring this new regulatory environment into your guidance. They're going to get that every day from investors, and now they can say they've talked about it. I just want to emphasize one other piece, what I think actually is probably more at play with this, this guidance for revenue deceleration, and that is this basic concept of the growth from stories is coming from markets outside of the U.S. that tend to have lower revenue per user. And so the simple math is that, in combination with what were strong numbers last year, creates this effect where you will return to some deceleration. So I think that the comment on targeting was more of a strategic comment. I think the comment more broadly about a deceleration is more about a mix shift in where they're getting their ads from.
The deceleration is separate from the commentary that they provided in the first quarter about revenue decelerating on a sequential basis throughout 2019?
Yeah, what they said is, to expect a return to deceleration. That would be for the back half of this year and into 2020. So we reverse that trend now, expect that to return again. I think those comments about the targeting and the return to deceleration can at first glance be taken together, but I think that they have different objectives.
Got it. And Gene, how would you grade the quarter so far?
So I'm going to give them a B+. And the user growth, 9% year over year for 4 consecutive quarters, is most impressive given all of the headwinds that they've had. Second is they continue to increase some of the monetization within their core products, which is also impressive given everything that's gone on with advertisers. But the reason why I don't give it a higher grade, and I think a lot of people would vote for a higher grade, is because there's still this inherent regulatory risk. And ultimately, I think that shares of Facebook are not a good investment, because I think that this regulatory environment will eventually cap some of its outside. I think there's just definitely better ways to make money in large cap tech.
All right, Gene, thank you so much for your analysis. Gene Munster of Loup Ventures. Let's trade it here. What would be your grade, Guy, for the quarter?
I think B+ is reasonable.
Okay.
Actually, it's probably an A quarter.
I'd love to have Professor Munster back in the day.
You thought it was too easy.
That was a great quarter. What do you mean? He's got the right grade.
I mean, I'd take that B+, sure. No, I do it. The operating systems issue, though, I mean, it gets back to higher OPEX, lower CAPEX, by the way. They also reported the CAPEX is going to be $2 billion lower, but changing their operating systems means new costs associated with regulatory headwinds.
You got to be very careful. You can't bang the drum. Gene was spot on when he talked about they had to walk, they had to tread lightly based on the political environment that we're in.
By the way, if I'm grading, that's not their fault. I mean, you know, if my professor dinged me half a grade for something that was an exogenous factor, it's about how you.
No, but it is about the regulatory headwinds. Yeah, I totally hear you, but I still think it's a buy. I think that people were just gauging his maybe the way he was defining the environment, and he was overly negative.
You like the first part of what Gene said, but you didn't like the last part of what Gene said, which is he doesn't think Facebook right now is a good investment in technology. There are other places to make money.
I like everything that Gene said.
Up to that point.
Everything that Gene said, I liked. I think he's too nervous about the regulatory headwinds, and he's got to brush that aside the way the market has.
Most important thing for me was user growth, and if their revenue per user is going up, that says it all. That's why you own Facebook.
All right, we got a news alert here on Uber. Deirdre Bosa's got more on this. Deirdre.
Melissa, 2 early Uber board members stepping down. One of them is early VC investor benchmark representative Matt Kohler. You might remember that he took Bill Gurley's place. He's stepping down from the board, as well as Arianna Huffington, who says that she needs to focus more on Thrive, her company. Now, the backdrop here is interesting, guys, because this is now a board with several vacant seats. It was greatly expanded during the turbulent time when founder Travis Kalanick was forced out. Since then, we've also seen Ryan Graves, which is Uber's first CEO. He left in May, shortly after the IPO. And I also want to note that as part of the deal with SoftBank, that big investment before the IPO, they were supposed to fill 2 seats on that board. That never happened because they did not get CFIUS approval. That is the government agency that reviews corporate deals for national security risks. It's uncertain now whether they can even fill those seats if they were to get approval. So, guys, Uber has come a long way and a long way back in the last few years. This is a board that was expanded, now shrinking. Back to you.
So 5 empty seats, basically. Deirdre, is the tally.
Yeah. And you know, the company didn't have any comment, so you know, I'm not sure there's a timeline as to when or how they're going to fill these seats. But I would also just add that these are more challenges for Dara Khosrowshahi, who I think his honeymoon has ended since taking over a few years ago.
Deirdre, thank you. Deirdre Bosa at the New York Stock Exchange, for a company that has had corporate governance issues in the past.
You want more directors, not less.
You want a full board.
You want a full board, and you want people that weren't part of the insider group. I mean, and that is the case. And I think the issue here is still you've got lockups, you've got people that are affiliated with the company from a different life when it wasn't a public company that didn't have the kind of rules they have on them now.